What is something in your life you've thought about trying? It could be related to personal growth, self-discovery, or becoming healthier mentally or physically. What is something you've thought of pursuing in your life? And I want you to ask yourself these questions. What if I tried? What if I could? What if I would? Today, I'll be sharing with you how those two powerful words of what if have radically impacted my life to make it more incredible than I ever could have imagined, and how living a life of curiosity has opened up so many doors for me. And I hope that by having a curiosity mindset for you all, it can also open doors as well. As a child, I went to swim class, and around the age of 5, that's when my career in swimming ended. I did pass the test of the dead man's float, which, by the way, why are we teaching children to float like a dead man? But anyways, that's where I passed, and swimming ended for me. In middle school, those years were difficult, like most kids. In gym class, when kids played dodgeball, I was dodging just being seen. I was last picked for the teams and did not enjoy exercise or track day. So I had a doctor's note to get out of exercise because I had childhood asthma. And at nighttime, I'd have to use a breathing machine because it was a bit scary sometimes. So I had these breathing treatments at night to help me breathe. But into high school, my health improved. I had no need for the doctor's note, yet I continued to use it as my excuse to avoid anything and everything athletic. In college, at the age of 20, a friend asked me to go running, and that's where the curiosity bug started. I said, sure, but what do I do with my arms? Is it right? Is it left? And she laughed, saying, have you never been running? That would be skipping. And we both laughed. But that's where my journey began with exercise. So that first run led to a 5K and a 10K and half marathon, and I even ticked off the marathon box. And although I was never on the podium, I was never fast, my body responded. I was able to do these races. And the curiosity then went to triathlon. And in those races, like with my arms, with triathlon, I was curious as well. And my mom, being my biggest fan, I called her to say, Mom, I'm gonna do a triathlon. And she knew, oh yeah, honey, that's where you swim, bike, and run. But you can't swim. And we both laughed. So around the age of 25, I started adult swim classes to learn how to swim again. And the curiosity began of what if I could do a triathlon? So I started doing shorter distance triathlons, and it kept growing just like it did with running. It was a similar reflection of curiosity. I could do these races. I was not on the podium, but my body was responding, and I kept thinking, what if I could do a longer race? So at the end of what was a half Ironman race, I had a very distinct thought. What if I could do an Ironman? I'd heard of the Ironman races. I've had friends that have done them, and so I began to look it up. I was really curious. What if I could do an Ironman? Well, an Ironman is a 3.8 kilometer swim. It could be in the ocean, a river, or a lake. The bike, 180 kilometers, and it could be anywhere, flat or mountains, just depends. And you know how we say the phrase, we save the best for last? Well, I call the marathon part of the Ironman dessert, saving the best for last. So it's a full marathon, 42.2 kilometers at the end of the Ironman. My average time for these races, for the Ironmans, took about 15 hours on average. There is a 17-hour cutoff on most races, and one of my most proud finishes was a race that took 16 hours and 52 minutes. There was 8 minutes left. That story in itself is a story for another stage. So, at age 32, I did my first Ironman. What was meant to be a bucket list of a one and done, never again, unfortunately grew. And I completed these Ironmans, and they also became reflective of seasons in my life that I was going through. Getting married, getting divorced, losing a job, moving to a new country. And along these seasons of life, these races became my therapy. I even called it my bike therapy, and I realized that's what it is. Because on these training rides that were anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, I had so much time to think and process. And what was so symbolic of these races, it was helping me process and go through so many hard things in life that it was very therapeutic for me. Around the time of my 8th Ironman, I made a great friend, who's Janie, who you see there on the right. And we met through a triathlon club, and she became a friend and then a coach. And I learned that Janie, at the age of 58, became a kidney donor. And the stories that she shared with me were so inspiring, and I saw by her level of fitness, wow, what she's done as a kidney donor. And something she said spoke to me at the end of one of our bike rides. She said, "My life has only become better since becoming a kidney donor." That night, I went home and was so curious to learn more about kidney donation and what that means. I was so hungry to learn more. I learned that over 100,000 people in the US are waiting for a kidney. Over 500,000 people worldwide are waiting for a kidney. Every hour, 7 people are added to a wait list waiting for a kidney. And every day, 15 people die just waiting for a kidney. So what she said changed my life. I decided I want to become a kidney donor. And I went through the steps to find out if I could be a kidney donor, and turns out I could. And I am what's called a non-directed donor, meaning I don't know who has my kidney. I just know it's a man in Pennsylvania. Along this time as well, I was in my early 40s, and I knew that this kidney donation could be a way to extend someone else's life, to give them the health that I have. At that age, I thought about having a family, but I thought, well, I'm not going to start now. And I thought, what a way to leave a legacy and give someone else the life that I have and the health that I have. So Janie there coming to visit me in the hospital full circle, that was less than 6 months after that comment she said changed my life. In just such a short time, that all came together. After the surgery, literally within hours, I was using the walker to walk the hospital hallways. I went into the surgery very healthy. I'd actually just finished an Ironman a few weeks before, so I literally went from the finish line of an Ironman to the operating room. It was quite a journey. Yet walking those hallways, I had such an exciting feeling. I knew that now, as a kidney donor, I'm going to continue doing Ironman races, and it's going to be a whole new chapter of these Ironman races and the meaning that they have in my life. I, in less than 4 months from donating a kidney, was able to complete my 9th Ironman. I took it slow. I didn't rush it. Going into that race, I had such excitement and wondering of what will it feel? What will I feel like? The curiosity was there. And that moment, that finish line of, oh my gosh, my arms just capture everything of, how is this possible? That a surgery that was less than 4 months ago, I'm now completing my 9th Ironman. And I also began to reflect as, wait, I'm still the kid who avoided PE. How is all this possible? Yet such an incredible feeling of that finish line of what that felt like. And I also had the wondering, wouldn't my body somehow feel different that I'm missing a kidney? I only felt better. And Janie's quote was beginning to really ring true in my life, is it was only feeling better. What's special about these Ironman races, it's been able to combine my passion for travel and seeing the world with doing these races. I've been so fortunate to be able to race in Germany, Switzerland, France, Canada, and even Australia. So after the race at Ironman Australia, I sat at the awards ceremony watching the women in their early 40s collect their awards for first, second, third place. And what happens is those top finishers, they get a slot to go to the Ironman World Championships in Nice, France. And as they collected their awards, I clapped and clapped. But a few women, when they were offered the opportunity to go to the World Championships, said no thanks. It was almost funny. I thought, why would you not want to go? So that meant that it opened up a couple more slots, and my heart was beating, it was pounding, because I thought, oh, what if a slot opened up? And it did. So my eyes watered up. I just couldn't believe it. I was never expecting that, to have my ticket to the Ironman World Championships in Nice, France. Shortly after that race, I reached out to the National Kidney Registry. That's an organization that I worked with. They pair people like myself as a kidney donor with someone who needs a kidney, the kidney recipient. And I reached out to introduce myself because I knew my story was unique. I actually hadn't met anyone like me. That by that time I had done 11 Ironman races, and now racing with one kidney headed to the World Championship. And I reached out to introduce myself, and I had a simple request. Would you have a baseball cap or something I could wear at the Ironman World Championship? Because I knew there's going to be a ton of media coverage. I mean, this has athletes from all over the world racing in it. So a simple request with my story as well, because I wanted to wear something that is an invitation to ask me about kidney donation or what that might be. The email reply I got back, I almost fell out of my chair. The National Kidney Registry wrote back and said, we are loving hearing your story, and we would like to offer you the opportunity to be a sponsored athlete. And of course, I gratefully accepted. So what that meant was that I was able to create some custom shirts that I wear for my races and my gear, and it is exactly that. It's an invitation to look at what I'm wearing, because what we wear says something about us. So it's a great invitation for people to ask me about what kidney donation is. And with that, those hats came as well. So leading up to the race, my mom and I had our matching National Kidney Registry caps on, and so that was such a special way to lead up to what was the Ironman World Championship. Leading up to that week as well, I had my family with me in Nice, France, and this is in September of 2024. I had my mom, my brother, sister-in-law, niece, and even my mom. I was so embarrassed, I felt like a middle schooler. She had my head on a stick to carry around all day. And that's what moms do, and it's great. So going into the race, I'm so glad they were with me, because although I was so excited and curious about this experience, I was also so nervous and so scared, because you see, by this point, this race, this World Championship, was my 14th Ironman. However, leading up to that, I had 2 Ironman races that's called a DNF, did not finish. Those days were devastating. And those stories, that's a story for another stage. Yet I had those worries and those fears because I know what it feels like to not finish a race, but yet I had to focus on the things I can control. So my goals for the World Championship were to be safe, strong, and smile. All things that I could control. Because going into the race, I knew it would be a hard day. And it was. This course is among one of the hardest courses for the bike course, that 180-mile bike course, in all of the Ironman races all over the world. It's one of the hardest because it has about 2,500 meters of climbing, that means going up and down, or 8,000 feet of elevation gain in the French Alps. It's also technical, there's twists and turns, it's hard. And it was a hard day. So we swam in the Mediterranean Sea, we biked, and then that marathon for dessert, luckily it was flat as a pancake. And that goal to finish safe, strong, and smiling, that I did. What a magical moment. It was just electric. It was magical. The lights, the sound, the music, the spectators, the families. Seeing my family there at the finish line, that was a moment I will never forget. It was like the culmination of all of these things that I knew about of my life thus far. So to make it to that finish line was absolutely incredible. I decided after that race, I'm going to retire. I even had a little party to celebrate. No more Ironmans, my retirement. I ended on a high note. And I decided I'm going to focus now on half Ironman distance so I can really maybe improve my social life. So I did. And I was training for a race in Shanghai, China. It was Ironman, half Ironman distance. And leading up to the race, my dad's health was declining. And my dad was a man that always had such a kind word to say, a loving word, just such a supporter. And would come to my races, and just like the "You Are Awesome" poster, he was just such a big supporter. Leading up to the race in Shanghai, his health really declined. And just a few weeks before the race, in May 2025, I lost my dad. I didn't want to go to the race. It was a devastating moment. Yet I knew he would say, "Honey, go have fun. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy the day." So I decided I'm going to do that exactly. I went to the race, and I decided I'm going to enjoy the day. I was also a little worried. I wasn't prepared for this race, but I'm gonna have fun. And during the race, I had this repetitive thought over and over. What if I could qualify for another Ironman World Championship for the half Ironman distance? And at the same time I had this voice of what if, I also had the competing voice of that's crazy, I haven't trained. But it was all day, and it was such a distraction. I actually soaked it up and said, okay, I'm just gonna go with it, because it kept me wondering, and again, a distraction of what if I could qualify for another Ironman World Championship? I had a great day. I was smiling, had fun, wasn't stressed, just had fun. And what was so serendipitous is that watching the women in my age group, now by the mid-40s, in Shanghai collect their awards for those first, second, third places, a very similar thing happened. A couple women before me decided not to go to the World Championship, so it opened up more slots for other women. And my heart was pounding, just like in Australia. I could feel it. I could physically feel my heart pounding. What if they call my name? And they did! Oh my gosh! Like, I could not believe this. How is this happening? Like, I was not prepared for this race. I was just having a good time. So my face captures all of it. So what's also so special about this is I'll be heading now to the half Ironman or Ironman 70.3 World Championships, and it's in Nice, France, which is so special because having been there for the Ironman World Championships, to go back for the half Ironman is just so special. Could never imagine that that would happen. Remember when I shared with you about how I'm a kidney donor and I didn't know who needed a kidney, so I'm what's called a non-directed donor. Shortly after I made that decision, I told my family, I'm gonna become a kidney donor, and they were so supportive. Great, good for you. Soon after that, I learned about a relative who actually needed a kidney, Ron, who you see here. Well, it turns out that I tried really to find out, can I give Ron my kidney, but we weren't a match. Yet what was able to happen was I was able to name Ron as the beneficiary of my gift that I had given. So what's really interesting about kidney donation is Ron and kidney transplants, when Ron had already had received a kidney transplant. And so when you receive a transplant, that adds to the kidneys you currently have. Unless your kidneys are actually failing or causing harm, they leave those in. So Ron, actually, from a previous transplant, he now has 3 kidneys. And because I named Ron as a beneficiary from me, from my gift, as soon as he was healthy, he went to the top of the list and received a kidney. And now Ron has 4 kidneys. You see in that photo, he is on vacation there. He is with Becky, my second cousin, on vacation in Greece. He's also a grandfather, and he still works part-time. And so because of that gift of naming him, he's able to have a much healthier and longer life. So I'm so grateful to be part of that story as well. When we were talking earlier about what is it you're thinking about trying or pursuing, what is it in your life you'd like to try related to personal growth or discovery, and I talked about the doctor's note. When you look at yourself, what is the doctor's note it's time to let go of? It's time to tear up. Some of those doctor's notes are real. We do have limitations. We do have things to overcome. Yet in my case, my doctor's note, I held on to for far longer than I needed to, because actually, that doctor's note was from an allergist who was my uncle. So absolutely, I should have torn it up and let go of it long before. But going back to what you're thinking about pursuing, what is it something you need to move forward past, to not let limit you, to move beyond what you know you're capable of doing, to pursue what could be a more incredible life? And by tapping into the power of curiosity and asking yourself, what if I could do this? What if I would do this? I hope that by thinking about those questions and the impact that could have on your life, that could also dramatically change your life as well. I never would have imagined that the kid who skipped PE would someday grow into being a kidney donor world champion. That never was in my mind. Yet, by the power of thinking these what if questions and living this life of curiosity, that's what opened those doors for me. And I hope it does for you as well. If anything I've shared with today has resonated with you and you would like to connect, or you're curious to learn more, I invite you to do that. Thank you.